Alright, so if you guys have seen any of my prior videos, I really recommend checking those out to see exactly what I did to get everything installed here. I have a whole series of a Limitless build, and then I have a couple update videos where I show the battery tray that I'm running. Unfortunately, it's by a company called K Customs and they're not in business anymore. Same thing with the ESC mount and the servo mount. I don't know exactly if I'm going to convert all of that over, but I'm going to move over what I can. I'm going to try to make this Limitless with the GT chassis from Scorched RC as light as possible. But I'm going to show you exactly what I do to swap everything over. Hopefully you can use this video in conjunction with some of your own ideas and some other parts that you might be working with in order to make something that works for you. But ultimately I wanted to show the chassis being built, compare the weight of the two chassis, and then show the build once it's done, once I've moved everything over. So as you can see, currently I've got a stock Limitless chassis with a battery tray, with an ESC tray, and a couple of side skirts that the body actually locked into. So hopefully all of this will actually be removed, and so that's a lot of weight actually end up being saved. I mean, it's not a lot, but it is weight that will end up being saved by moving over to this new chassis. Also, if you guys recall, I have the carbon fiber shock towers. Now those, they're really not going to save that much weight, but I was already buying the chassis, and because it's coming from overseas, it just made sense for me to go ahead and purchase that, as well as these, all in the same purchase, so I can save on shipping. So anyways, let me go ahead and start taking this apart and get it down to just the chassis. I'm going to weigh the chassis and the side skirts and the battery tray all together and then compare it to the weight of that chassis like it is. And that will tell me if I'm truly saving weight by moving over to this new one. Alright you guys, so I got the front off and I have everything sitting over here. And I'm starting to get screws and different things kind of all over the place. And so before I was going to get everything off and weigh it at the same time, I didn't think I can just weigh this, and then as I take pieces off of here, I can go ahead and install them into the new one, and then once this is bare bones, then weigh that. I was initially just going to take it all apart and have them both just sitting there, but that is just going to make it too complicated and it's not needed. So let me go ahead and grab the scale. We've got 1 pound 10.0 ounces. So I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that all right, but 1 pound 10.0, and I'm just going to move this out of the way so you guys can see. Hopefully that doesn't fall over. There we go. 1 pound 10 ounces. So we have that, and now whenever we take the other one apart completely, we'll weigh it again. All right, also for those curious, here is the stock one. Got 0.8 ounces. 0.4, so half the weight. It's not a big weight savings, but it's something. All right, real quick, stock one. 1.2 ounces. Carbon fiber, 0.7. All right, so it has been taking quite a long time, but that's mainly because of me swapping out the shock towers for the carbon fiber shock towers, and for the really minuscule amount of weight that you're saving from that, I don't know if it's necessarily required, but since I already bought them, I went ahead and put them on. And really, if you're going to buy the carbon fiber chassis because you're trying to lighten up the load or clean up the build a little bit, why not go ahead and just put in the extra 45 minutes, 20 to 45 minutes, depending on how good you are, getting the carbon fiber shock towers installed. So I went ahead and did it, of course. And so now I'm going to go ahead and try to remove the receiver box and the servo and the ESC, and then the motor. I'm actually going to have to Dremel this out, so I can Dremel a line through here so I can get a flathead in there to break that free, because that screw is stripped. So of course I will go ahead and replace that. But yeah, look how messed up this chassis is. still look pretty straight, honestly, but we'll see for sure once I take it all the way apart. I guess I should show you guys this and what it looks like. I think it looks really, really clean. If I was going for looks, of course I would have replaced these as well, but this is a speedrun car, so not going for looks, going for function. Alright, so I've got everything off of it, and like I said, had to Dremel that out. I cleaned that up as much as I could, but you can see this is zeroed out, and I'm going to try to get it on here in a way where we can see it. I wish it would just, like, it would save. You know what, let me take this side piece off real quick, and now got that plus that. Alright, so we are at 1 pound, 12.9 ounces. So again, not a huge savings whatsoever, but the other chassis, it's going to be much more clean. So you can see I'm getting rid of this, and this tray. That actually also includes the tray that the ESC was mounted on, so may not need that anymore. And that's a little bit of weight, so very minuscule, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. The only other thing that I'll go ahead and do that you guys may not see is I'll get this mounted back up and get the drive shafts put back in, because I'm just waiting for the motor to come back from Castle. After that, I'm going to try to figure out if I want to move any of this stuff or if I want to leave it in basically the same orientation that it was in. I'll make that decision once the motor comes in the mail and I can look at the possibilities of how things are mounted. Alright you guys, quick little update for the video. Ended up going with the stock servo mount and receiver box. I think this is for either a felony or infraction or something like that. It's not for the Limitless because it's smaller, but you know, a lot of those parts are interchangeable, so I did go ahead and put that on. I epoxied a little mount. This is actually a servo mount made by RPM. That way I can put that antenna there, and if I ever need to take any of this off, it's held on by screws and not double-sided sticky tape like before, so I can remove the screws and take all of that out of there. You see perfect pass on the side, and little connector, Castle Link connector, so I can hook it up to Castle Log, or Castle Link, to look at the data logs. A couple other things I did, I put this piece back on because one, it kind of helped with securing that receiver mount. Same thing over here, but I cut it down a little bit, and that was to make room for those chassis infills from Scorched. So see what they look like underneath there. And I did that so I could put that fourth screw on there. So if you didn't have that, then you'd only have these 3 screws holding it down. I wanted that fourth one, so. And those don't get in the way of the steering at all, so that's really good. The other thing this chassis has that I didn't realize is actually screw holes, or holes that were drilled out for screws to hold onto the XLX2. So I didn't want the XLX2 directly against the chassis, so I have basically spacers and rubber washers in between the chassis and that. So it has like just the tiniest bit of cushion, but you can see the screw holes for that, and the screws, of course. All right, GPS there, and that's so I can charge it on that side if I wanted to keep it on the car. Otherwise, it's dual lock Velcro, I can pull it off. Same thing with the battery. So dual lock here and here with the strap going across. So yeah, that I've already tried putting the batteries in there, of course, and that really holds it down very tightly. Got all the wiring. You guys know I'm pretty much obsessed with routing, wiring, and making it look nice. And honestly, I think this is the cleanest build I've done so far. Still waiting on the motor, of course, but this is all ready for that sensor wire. And really, if I wanted to mount some fans, I've got tons and tons of room over here to do that now. The last thing I'm going to do, I was going to do magnets for these four corners, but with the batteries here, there's just a little bit of pressure that needs to be applied to make the body meet the side here, and I don't think magnets are gonna hold. So I was gonna do body clips, but then ultimately I decided to do the same solution that I've done for this Fortec over here. Right now, I only have servo mounts in the front for the body, but for that one over there, I'm gonna do the front and the rear. And I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but I had the shocks down lower and I had cut the aluminum down. By the way, I put the aluminum front shock tower back on. One, because it is heavier and it brings a little bit more weight up front. Not by much, but it's a heavier piece than the carbon fiber. The carbon fiber's in the rear. But I had to trim this down and drill holes out for these shocks to lower them down. And I messed up on the carbon fiber one. So put that one back on, and I did that so I can get the body as low as absolutely possible in the front. So you can see here, this goes down really, really low, and I'm actually not using those posts there. I have a screw that goes in through the bottom and a washer and a nut that goes on top. So it does take setting this up a little bit longer, but it really makes it extremely low profile. So the body meets pretty nicely over here, but with the screw and servo mount, I can make that flush. Same thing here and on the other side. So it's gonna turn out really nicely when it's done. All right, you guys, I know it's hard to see right now, but just wanted to show you what the finished product looks like. And you can see that that screw wouldn't have any issues with aerodynamics. We've got this sticking out right here. So I think that is a really clean way. It's not the most ideal, it's not the fastest, but since I'm already doing, a screw up here, and I'm really wanting this body to adhere very tightly to the sides, that's really gonna help with that. And then also, because this is screwed to a servo mount and the body's screwed in here, basically if you crash, this body should definitely not come off, and that's actually gonna protect a lot of the electronics inside versus body mounts, which can strip out. So we'll see how this holds up, and just waiting for the other parts in the mail. I can go ahead and do the rear, which, as you can see, if I pull this down, that actually brings that down just a little bit. Just gonna do the same thing to the other side, just a tiny bit. And then this one pretty much sits right where it needs to go anyway, so there's not gonna be any pressure here, but it's gonna look really good when it's done and be, like I said, really, really low to the ground. Hopefully that helps with aerodynamics.